What do you want to da-da-da?
What do ya wanna da-da-da?
I have not a da what to da-da-da.
We could switch to Progressa da.
Oh, yeah?
We could switch to Progressa and sa.
Okay.
We could sa and have to buy some za.
Oh, yeah. Let's switch to Progressa to da and get some za with the money we saw.
Yeah.
Now we know we're gonna da-da-da.
These days, nothing is normal and everything is weird. But you could still save big when you switch to Progressive. It might just be the most normal thing you da-to-da.
Quote to da at Progressa.com.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
Hey guys, welcome to this week's episode of the Inside Line Formula One podcast. I know we're a few days late this week, and unfortunately, Kunal, I guess that's the state of Formula One. Nothing's been on time, and last weekend's race ended 2 laps too soon, and then we were also delayed a few days. So basically, everything's all over the place. And
yes, thank you, Lucian, for showing all your concern. Mithila's been a little under the weather, so if you're not hearing her scream at the top of her lungs, that's because she's not too well. But that's unfortunately how it goes, because we do not have a reserve or a test or a third host contract, which meant that we actually had to skip last week's episode. But welcome back. It's lovely to have you in the studio.
thank you, and I'll try not to miss any podcasts because I'm out racing like Indy 500 or whatever, since you don't have backup. But it's lovely to be back. Thank you. And guys, in this week's episode, we're going to tell you why a boring Formula One is actually scary.
And why Ross Brawn is out to defend boring Formula One races. And how soon before we believe that all of Ferrari's 2018 Formula One car is illegal.
And oh my god, this makes our podcast sound like a fashion blog, but what the heck? Why Lewis Hamilton should wear haute couture in the paddock of the French Grand Prix.
Ouch. I really don't want this to be a fashion blog or a podcast. I can't handle it. But dear Formula One, you have taken away our logo. Please do not take away our checkered flag.
Yes, and of course, we have our super fun What Toto Wolff Said This Week section later on in this show. Guys, remember to subscribe to us on iTunes, on Audioboom. We promise you your weekly dose of Formula One humor.
Yes, we do. And honestly, let's begin with the Canadian Grand Prix. We're going to spend like 36 seconds talking about it because it was just so boring. And it was that boredom that had me scared. I mean, if we could have Formula Yawn in Canada, I fear for what could lie ahead of us in 2018.
Especially because Canada has usually had some really fun races.
Exactly. And, we've had 2 different types of circuits and the same result. So I'm talking of Monaco and of Canada. Both of them bored us. I defended Monaco, but there was no way, and there is no way I am going to defend for what happened in Canada.
That's so true, actually. So, 2 different types of circuits, and Formula One's box office just delivered the same result. Boredom.
This actually makes me sit back and wonder if the opening races of the season were actually a fluke.
Yeah, and Kunal, of course, Ross Brawn was out to defend the boring races, but obviously he's getting paid to do that. It's his job.
Well, one thing's for sure, blaming the circuit layouts for making a races boring is actually silly. Anyway, let's hope that the upcoming race in France more than makes up for Canada and for Spain and for Monaco.
Yeah, so France has 2 back-to-back motorsport events, both big ones this week. So the 24 Hours of Le Mans just concluded, and the French Grand Prix is up next in like a few days from now.
And of course, as we all know, the French Grand Prix is the first of Formula One's first ever triple header.
Woohoo!
I can't wait for it because that means we are literally working 3 consecutive weekends through the summer. But anyway, talking of Le Mans, congratulations to Fernando Alonso for winning the 24 Hours of Le Mans on debut. He did well to follow Nico Hülkenberg's footsteps.
That's below the belt.
But we are not going to be like every other media outlet. We are going to say congratulations to Toyota for winning the Le Mans. And of course, Fernando Alonso was 1 out of 3 drivers that won this year's Le Mans.
Yeah.
Great news for Formula One and Fernando Alonso. But let's remember there were 2 other former Formula One drivers with him in there.
And also congratulations for Ferrari and Sebastian Vettel for winning in Canada. But it seems that after Ferrari's engine and halo-mounted mirrors, apparently that DRS is now illegal.
actually all season long, something or the other about Ferrari is going to seem illegal.
Yeah, and I'll also tell you what was actually illegal. Ferrari's social media creative for the Canadian Grand Prix. So instead of the maple leaf, they used the marijuana leaf. I'm not even kidding.
Well, depending on which part of the world you are listening in from, that creative could actually be deemed legal as well. I don't know, but how soon before we deem that everything about this year's Ferrari is illegal?
Yeah, and you know what else is illegal, Kunal? Ferrari ruining Kimi Raikkonen's races again and again. It makes me so angry.
Well, although in Canada, Raikkonen's error in qualifying cost him a good result in the race.
Wait, you're deviating. I'm still on this topic of what Ferrari is doing that's illegal, and the list is endless. I'm wondering how long before Formula One starts claiming that Ferrari's use of color red is illegal or something. It hurts our eyes, the rivals will say maybe.
Well, Ferrari's additional millions of earnings from Formula One, that should be deemed illegal. But wait, also Ferrari's non-participation in the raft race in Canada, that should definitely be classified as illegal as well. I mean, come on, Ferrari, be a sport.
Yeah, I think the only team on the grid to not participate. But, honestly, Kunal, it took them years to follow the other teams on social media. And I think it'll take at least a few more years before they agree to participate in the famous raft race. It's it's Ferrari we're talking about. But speaking of which, I'm happy to share, guys, Williams finally won something. They won the raft race. And you know what? I'm going to tell you why they won. They won because they did not have Sirotkin or Stroll in their raft. Obviously.
Well, I don't know if that was a paid raft or somebody paid for it. But anyway. Well, Sergei Sirotkin. Okay, no. I'm going to talk of Lance Stroll. At his home race in Canada, he barely made it to the Lance Stroll grandstand. And it's becoming a fad these days. Every driver, even though it's not a legendary driver or something, has a grandstand to their name. And especially in the case of Stroll, he's gone from being a paid driver to a paid for grandstand for a driver or whatever you call it.
And this is damn funny. So Sirotkin is yet to get a blue tick on Twitter. Basically, if you don't have a blue tick, that means you don't matter, So he's basically unknown in the world of social media, and that's basically what he is in real life as well, unknown.
Ouch.
But long story short, he is having an absolutely forgettable debut season.
And guess what? Williams are not only the slowest on track, but they are also slowest in paying bills to suppliers. But let's not make fun of this though, because we know what it takes for these midfield teams to survive. But I'm also surprised that given the millions that Lance Stroll is bringing in, they're actually a little delayed in payments. But anyway.
Yeah. I read this really funny joke. It's a bit lame, but what the hell. So it was about Williams, obviously. So when Serena Williams was winning her opening rounds at the French Open, a fan commented on Lewis Hamilton's photograph and he asked if she should be actually called Serena Mercedes because Williams doesn't win anything, obviously.
Well.
That was really funny.
It also seems that Lewis Hamilton does not have a Ferrari in his destiny. His Ferrari road car broke down a few weeks ago and had to be towed to the garage.
Ouch. So now we're going to talk about Red Bull Racing and, interestingly, how they are desperately trying to feed their junior driver program and find a replacement for Brendan Hartley. So, guys, you all can apply if you all are interested in a program that may or may not promote you. But,
could definitely demote you.
Yeah, exactly, if you all are up for the risk. But I must admit that, being patient with Brendan Hartley might actually yield better results than just drafting him away in typical Red Bull Racing style.
Yes.
That's if they're listening to me.
Yeah. Well, Lando Norris was denied promotion by McLaren, and then I don't think Red Bull Racing wants to give Kubica a shot. But that would be so apt for their whole gives you wings tagline. But anyway, Red Bull Racing's hunt for Hartley's replacement took them to finding talent from even two-wheeler racing categories. So we know Marc Marquez and Danny Pedrosa tested the Toro Rosso, and even Tony Cairoli, the motocross champion, tested that same car. So Red Bull is really trying hard to feed their junior driver program.
That's really interesting. And Kunal, I also think there's merit in talking about Brendan Hartley's crash in Canada. so his helmet actually hit the halo pretty hard. And the FI will definitely be investigating more on this.
Yes, that's the difference between lab tests and real life results. That's exactly what happened. I think the FI will address this in a press conference or some sort of a media briefing at the French Grand Prix as well, given how they are in this relentless pursuit for increasing driver safety. But moving on, the other big news from the Red Bull Racing camp that was just announced was Red Bull Racing confirming Honda power for 2019 and 2020. Basically, in an attempt to finish first next year, they've signed up the fourth and the slowest engine manufacturer in Formula One.
Well done!
And that sounds funny, although that's the truth. But I think Red Bull Racing have done the right thing. They know that till 2021, they only have Renault and Honda power to choose from. And they already know how the Renault is going and how it could go. So taking a punt with Honda was possibly their only option.
Yeah, but Kunal, I find it a little strange how Red Bull Racing chose to make this announcement of Renault's home race in France, and it's their comeback race, so it's a big deal. I think it's just below the belt stuff, but unfortunately this is Red Bull Racing and they don't always appear to be fair, especially when they're demoting people or teams or...
Well, Renault get demoted.
Yeah. Basically, they'll have something to talk to Danny Kivat about.
Well, that's going to be the title of our podcast. Red Bull Racing Demote Renault. Red Bull Racing Demote Renault.
Yeah. So after Canada, I also remember how Renault made a plea to Red Bull Racing to continue with their power units. Basically, they wanted the extra revenue, and Red Bull Racing is possibly their best bet to, claim to be a world champion. I guess.
Yes. For Honda, from a team that spoke of winning races, which is McLaren, they will now have a team that is actually winning races. And that could mean a lot more pressure than they've had before, especially because they've been unceremoniously dumped by McLaren, and they wouldn't want to go down the same route with Red Bull Racing as well.
Yeah, and I'm going to crack a mean joke, but Verstappen will have a Honda-powered car next year. And Kunal, I am waiting to see what crashes first.
Well, that is Mithila at her cruel best. It's maybe the medicines doing all the talking, but...
Yeah, that's what I'll let the Verstappen fans believe. Otherwise, they're going to come at me.
Red Bull Racing will actually now use the Honda announcement to try and tie up Daniel Ricciardo's services for the foreseeable future. This, I think, is the only missing piece in their puzzle for 2019 and 20. And although if I was Ricciardo, I'd probably extend Red Bull Racing's services for just 1 year and then see what could come my way in 2020. Maybe Lewis Hamilton is going to retire, or even Sebastian Vettel. Who knows?
Who knows? But, although Dan Rick's personality is such that I can't think of him in anything but the Red Bull Racing overalls. But if this Honda partnership does work out, I think the biggest losers in all this will be McLaren and Fernando Alonso, because they've endured Honda's pains for all this while, and maybe Red Bull Racing could do with all the gains. It doesn't seem fair, but I guess that's Formula One.
Well, she may be cruel, but the medicines also make her poetic, is what I believe. But apparently it was Honda's engine upgrade in Canada that did the trick, and Red Bull Racing were impressed. And actually, I didn't know this, and I don't know if a lot of fans did as well, or maybe it was just me who missed out, but Pierre Gasly ran the earlier version of the Honda engine in qualifying, and then he ran the upgraded engine in the race. So I haven't really checked if he got penalties. I'm sure he would have, but it was that switch that had Red Bull Racing convinced that Honda power is the way to go for in 2019 and 2020.
Oh wow. And I honestly thought that with Hartley's crash, Red Bull Racing wouldn't have managed to test the Honda upgrades, but well, now we know.
Well, the only thing I would have wished for, though, is for Red Bull Racing to show some respect towards Renault, especially in the manner of the announcement. Let's remember, when Ferrari and Mercedes refused to supply engines to Red Bull Racing, it was only Renault who agreed.
Yeah, I guess that, Red Bull Racing is just happy to leave the past where it is and focus on the future, and that doesn't include Renault, so that's that.
Ouch. But talking of the future, Formula One claims that it might re-look at the use of flags altogether. And all of this because a checkered flag was actually waved a whole lap earlier in Canada.
It's crazy, Kunal, that a nondescript model could come into Formula One and cause such a big upheaval.
Yeah, no more flags. Please don't do this, Formula One. I mean, flags are important to motorsport, and we love it when the flag is waved at the end of the race. There's just so much emotion in it. Please do not rob us of everything we've grown up enduring about Formula One.
Yeah, and I can understand that they've decided to digitize the red flags and the yellow flags, but to treat all flags equally, that is not fair, and it's making me angry. I have a checkered flag up on the wall in my bedroom, and I am not going to change that to a digital avatar. No way. I am not that millennial, Kunal.
But in the digital avatar of Formula One, fans have the choice to remove the center pillar of Halo for better player visibility. So I'm talking of the F1 2018 racing game, which is going to be announced soon. And I wonder how many real Formula One drivers would actually want to have this choice in the racing cars as well.
So what else do we have, Kunal? Lots to discuss, actually, since we're doing our podcast after so long.
Jenson Button is set to marry again. He is going to have more wives than a Formula One World Championship. Okay, below the belt, but anyway.
Yeah, and also Red Bull Racing has finally found a way to keep Verstappen in check, and that is basically by keeping his father away. So this is just an old theory that's true in so many instances in life, I guess.
Ouch.
Not just in sport.
In this whole track to road technology transfer, Pirelli actually wants to do the reverse. They want to have sensors in Formula One racing tires, something that they actually have had in the road car tires since many years. And this means that today's tires in Formula One could actually be classified as dumb tires. And I don't just say this because of their performance alone.
Yeah, and if this should happen, I think the commentators will have yet another reason to exclaim about the number of sensors that exist on the Formula One racing car with a lot of excitement.
Yeah, I think the last count was tens and thousands of sensors, and then now they'll say tens and thousands and one more sensor.
And now, guys, I know you all have all been waiting for this. We bring to you our What Toto Wolff Said This Week section. So yes, Toto Wolff labelled Canada as a shit result for Mercedes. He actually said that. And we don't have an editor, so we can't beep out the earlier comment.
Well, Wolff said shit result for Mercedes. Also, he said that Mercedes' reign at the top is over, and all of this while they might still just end up winning the World Constructors' Championship. So the irony of being Mr. Wolff in the paddock, I see.
Yeah, the only thing that he said that I also agree with is that it's difficult to call the 2018 form yet. And it's actually true, for the teams also and for the sport. We still don't know if the sport is good or boring or what. But I just hope it stays this way, It's an unpredictable season.
On that note, ladies and gentlemen...
Wait. You can't stop this episode just yet. We've got to discuss the French Grand Prix that's returning this weekend.
Well, my best memory of the French Grand Prix was when Michael Schumacher won the race and the title in 2004. I remember he was on the main straight, almost full throttle, and he was wobbling his steering wheel from left to right. So thank you for actually not making me end this episode without talking of the French Grand Prix. I almost forgot. And then, of course, there is Renault, the French manufacturer. And like we said earlier, they've been hit below the belt in the lead up to their home race. So I don't know what they're going to do. But
yeah, and well, to me, Kunal, I'm just glad to see the French flavor back in Formula One. The French Grand Prix, obviously, and we have 3 French drivers on the grid. There's Grosjean, obviously, Gasly, and Ocon. So
well, Charles Leclerc, he is actually Monegasque, or Monegasque. I don't know how they pronounce it, but he speaks French, but he ain't French.
He's from Monaco.
Yes. But it's the same like his driver status in Formula One. He's a Ferrari driver, but doesn't drive a Ferrari or for Ferrari. But he drives a Ferrari-powered racing car. So,
yeah, we'll just leave him out of it.
But we have actually, and I need to make this announcement, but we are going to have Romain Grosjean on the show before the French Grand Prix this weekend. So Remember to tune in to us again in about 2 or 3 days' time, and we will definitely play out his episode.
Yeah, it's a really exciting episode. So, guys, please do tune in. And yeah, it's going to be Paul Ricard this weekend, a track that is owned by none other than Bernie Ecclestone. So I'm wondering if he's going to make life tough for the Formula One circus, because he always seems to be ready for some sort of payback or the other, you know.
Well, I really hope not.
Yeah, and there's also an F1 live event in Marseille. So it's a different kind of F1 live than what had happened previously in London.
Yes, I read the press release regarding this event and I couldn't understand what's actually happening. So I think reading the aero regulations for 2019 is probably going to be simpler.
So Kunal, predictions time. What do you think is going to happen?
I think I will go with a Sebastian Vettel win. Somehow his illegal Ferrari seems to be the quickest. Unless they find something else illegal on the car this weekend, I think he's going to win. Yeah. And then the usual suspects will follow. You know, Hamilton, Bottas, Verstappen, Ricciardo, and all of those. Basically, the top 6, anyone could end up winning.
Yeah, you know, I think that Lewis Hamilton is going to find a way to clinch this. But honestly, doing all of that, I think there's a very good chance that he'll arrive in the paddock, you know, dressed very fashionably, because after all, it's France and all of that.
On that note, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in. Like I said a few minutes ago, we will have Romain Grosjean on the show before the French Grand Prix as well. It's a pre-recorded interview, but we are going to play that out for the first time. So remember to subscribe to us, and we will see you on the Monday after France. I don't know how they say goodbye in French, though.
Au revoir.
Okay, there you go.
I'm Annie Apple, and I'm here to invite you to come and listen to my new podcast series, Raising a Pro. It's the most intimate sports-related conversations you will hear. Each week, we explore the journeys of some of your favorite NFL players through the eyes of those that know them best. From Joe Burrow, DeAndre Hopkins, Myles Garrett, Ezekiel Elliott, Nick and Joey Bosa, just to name a few. With exclusive insights and information, we leave no stone unturned. Subscribe now to Raising a Pro on your favorite podcast app.